Hey everyone, my name is Shreya and I'm an applied science manager at Amazon. Congratulations on moving forward in the interview process at Amazon. We really appreciate the time and effort you've put in so far. Interviewing at Amazon is different than interviews you've done in the past. And this video, in addition to other prep material that you'll receive, will help set you up for success. It is important that you spend time preparing for the interview. You'll likely be asked to provide details about your past projects as well as how you approach hypothetical situations. You should think deeply not only about what you did, but how and why you did it that way. Feel free to ask clarifying questions during the interview. Do not rely on assumptions. You should try to understand and think about the problem first before you jump into a solution. Think out loud during the interview. The interviewer would like to hear your thought process and assess how you make decisions and trade-offs. Now let's jump into the interview structure first. Your interview will consist of 2 parts, a 1-hour research presentation and 5 rounds of back-to-back interview meetings. Each round, including the presentation, is scheduled for 60 minutes. During your presentation, you'll spend majority of the hour to present, followed by a question and answer session with the panel. Be ready to share your academic research or your recent project that highlights your domain experience. Please make sure that you walk through your research with details and expect the panel to ask questions for each part of your presentation. The panel would also like to see that you have clear communication to explain these technical concepts clearly. Now let's get into the specific technical and functional aspects of the role and how to prepare. I'm going to share with you how to prepare for the functional interview and break the technical interview topics into 3 parts: coding, science breadth and depth, and science application and problem solving. Let's talk about coding first. For applied scientists, they'll assess your ability to write code in Python or any language of your choice. The interviewers will ask you coding questions around data structures and algorithms, and typical topics will include data sorting, searching, merging, recursion, loops, function definitions, and linear time complexity. LiveCode will be used to conduct the coding interview. LiveCode is Amazon's online coding platform. It supports multiple programming languages. However, you can't run or compile your code. Try to not write any pseudocode during this exercise. Some tips for the coding interview. You should brush up your coding skills by practicing the easy to medium level coding challenges on HackerRank or LeetCode. Ask clarifying questions first before jumping into the solution and walk through your solution step by step with the interviewer. You should always try to think out loud as you solve the problem. This helps the interviewer understand your thought process. It's also helpful in the case you steer away from the problem. They will give you hints to get back on track. Remember to always think about the edge cases of a problem. Consider the time and space complexity, runtime, and remember to talk about trade-offs of different algorithm approaches. Keep in mind that a problem can often be solved in several ways. Interviewers are often looking for whether you choose the simplest solution versus a complicated one. Choose the simplest one, but also talk to the interviewer about the various solutions and why you chose yours. Remember to talk about testing and optimizations as well. The next competency we will discuss is science breadth and depth. For science breadth, the interviewers will ask you questions about your experience, your research, in order to touch base on some fundamental knowledge in ML, mathematics, and statistics. There may be some conceptual questions about data training, machine learning frameworks, mathematical optimization and statistics, model training and deployment, or questions about the differences between different machine learning algorithms. For example, what is a decision tree-based model? What are the differences between supervised and unsupervised learning? How do you apply these models to production? Expect the interviewer to ask questions around deep learning, natural language processing, computer vision, operational research modeling, optimization, or robotics if you have relevant experience in these areas. For science depth, the interviewer will probe details about methods and strategies you've used in your projects. Be ready to answer any questions about your past research or industry projects. They'll want details about methods and strategies you've used in your projects and why. Details about projects to see if they were creative and pragmatic, details about whether you've dived deep to check outliers or edge cases, details about how you scope the science model from scratch into production, details about how you evaluate your models and monitor their success, and details about the fundamentals in your field of expertise. You should look up some common data science and machine learning questions online and go over your resume to get familiar with your recent or past research, projects or publications, and think back your technical approaches and the problem-solving process in detail. Please also be ready to share with interviewers specific details about your technical thoughts and decision-making processes for a deep dive discussion, and try to avoid high-level discussion. When sharing about your past projects, remember to always use the STAR method: situation, task, action, result, to organize your answer, and try to highlight your challenge of the problems, actions and results for your solutions, and your learning from this experience. For science application questions, you will receive a case study or scenario-based question. The interviewer might give you a real-world Amazon problem and ask you to drive the whole project from end to end. This includes requirement gathering, data collection, modeling, deployment, retraining the model, and performance tuning. They will get insights on how you make key technical decisions, your technical strategies to solve the problem, and if you can think of any edge cases by asking more probing questions. The interviewer wants to see that you can properly gather the right requirements and can break down the problem. They will ask these questions in a very vague or ambiguous way. You should never make assumptions. You'll want to make sure you ask clarifying questions before you start to work on the technical questions that are asked. Once you finish gathering requirements, then you can start to talk about your solutions. Remember to think of every possible use case. What solution you will select versus what you will dispose. Talk about trade-offs in your decision-making process. You will need to defend your solutions with reason and talk about why you selected it. Expect the interviewer to ask you more probing questions about your machine learning and data science methodologies. You'll also want to use the requirements and the data you gathered from the interviewer to give a technical analysis with pros and cons. Always think about any edge cases that you can talk about or any optimizations to your solutions. Remember to talk about the metrics you'd like to use to define your model's success and your methodology, and be ready to discuss the feature engineering, data, and model selections as well. Keep in mind your customer experience and also make sure your solution is efficient and data-driven. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it'll help you feel more confident going into the final interview round. Be sure to reach out to your recruiter with any questions about the content covered in this video, and I wish you all the best in your preparation and interview. Good luck!